So hey, what's up guys, this is AK, and you are watching my YouTube channel AKM. So guys, welcome back to a brand new tips and tricks video of PUBG Mobile. The UMP is one of those guns that looks simple, but when you actually understand its numbers, recoil, bullet spread, movement behavior, and damage, you start to understand why it can be such a powerful close-range weapon. The important thing about a close-range gun is not just how much damage one bullet does. You need a combination of damage, fire rate, recoil control, accuracy, movement, and consistency. And the UMP brings all of these things together in a way that makes it extremely comfortable during fast fights. The UMP-45 has a base damage of around 41, and its fire interval is roughly 0.09 seconds, which puts it around 670 rounds per minute. That means the gun is capable of putting a lot of bullets on the enemy very quickly, while still remaining much easier to control than many high-recoil weapons. And there is something even more interesting. PUBG Mobile has specifically improved the UMP's movement behavior, including a 20% reduction in bullet spread while moving. So the advantage of the UMP is not simply that it has good damage. The real advantage is how well its damage, recoil, spread, and movement work together. And once you understand that combination, you will understand why the UMP can be such a monster in close range. Let's start with the part that makes the UMP feel so comfortable, its recoil. When you spray a weapon, your crosshair does not stay perfectly still. The gun produces vertical and horizontal recoil, and your job is to control that movement so the bullets continue traveling toward the enemy. With the UMP, the recoil pattern is relatively forgiving. That means you do not need to make huge corrections while spraying at close range. You mainly need to control the upward movement and keep your crosshair centered on the enemy. This becomes extremely important when the enemy is moving. Imagine an enemy is running across your screen at close range. You start spraying, and they suddenly change direction. If your weapon has heavy recoil, your crosshair can move away from the target very quickly. You then have to make a large correction, and those lost bullets can completely change the fight. With the UMP, those corrections are much easier to manage. Your recoil control does not have to fight against an extremely aggressive weapon. You can concentrate on tracking the enemy. And that is the real difference. Good recoil is not only about making the gun easier to spray. It gives your aim more freedom. When the weapon is predictable, you can spend more attention on the enemy's movement. Now let's talk about bullet spread, because this is something many players completely ignore. Recoil and bullet spread are not the same thing. Recoil is the movement of the weapon while firing. Bullet spread is the variation in where the bullets land around your aim point. You can have good recoil control and still miss bullets because your spread is working against you. This is why the UMP becomes particularly interesting for close-range combat. PUBG Mobile has documented a 20% reduction in the UMP-45's bullet spread while moving. That is a very important change for close-range fights. Because close-range combat is not a situation where you are standing completely still. You are moving left and right. You are changing direction. You are peeking. You are pushing. You are trying to avoid incoming bullets. So if a weapon remains accurate while you are moving, you can combine movement and shooting much more effectively. Think about a building fight. You enter a room, the enemy is directly in front of you, and both of you start moving sideways. You are not trying to stand still and win an aim duel. You are trying to make yourself difficult to hit while keeping your own bullets connected. This is where the UMP's movement accuracy becomes valuable. Your movement becomes part of your gunfight. And that is one of the biggest reasons the UMP feels so comfortable in close range. Now let's look at the damage and fire rate. The UMP is commonly listed at around 41 base damage, with a firing interval around 0.09 seconds. That is roughly 670 rounds per minute. At 41 base damage, 4 completely unmitigated body hits would represent about 164 raw damage before armor and hit location modifiers. Of course, real players have armor, and PUBG Mobile applies different damage calculations depending on the body part and armor level. So you should never think of 41 damage as meaning 4 bullets will always knock an enemy. The important point is what happens when you combine that damage with the fire rate. The gun can continue putting bullets onto the target quickly. This is why accuracy becomes so important. If you are landing your shots consistently, the UMP can remove an enemy's health very quickly. And because the recoil is manageable, you have a better chance of actually landing those consecutive shots. This is where the UMP becomes dangerous. A weapon with high theoretical damage is not useful if half of your bullets are flying away from the enemy. A slightly more controllable weapon can be much more effective in the hands of a player who consistently tracks the target. Now there is another number that matters, the magazine. The standard UMP magazine holds 25 rounds, while an extended magazine takes it to 35 rounds. That extra capacity becomes extremely valuable during close-range fights. Imagine you are fighting one enemy and their teammate suddenly pushes you. You finish the first player, but now another enemy is directly in front of you. With a 35-round magazine, you have much more room to continue the fight without immediately being forced into a reload. That does not mean you should blindly spray all 35 bullets. It means you have more breathing room when the fight becomes chaotic. And this is where the UMP becomes very useful in squad situations. The weapon gives you enough magazine capacity to maintain pressure while still keeping the gun controllable. Now let's talk about movement. This is probably one of the most underrated reasons to use the UMP. PUBG Mobile has also increased UMP weapon switch speed by 35% in its developer notes. That means the weapon is designed to become available very quickly when you switch to it. In an actual match, this matters when you are suddenly caught in close range. You may be rotating, holding another weapon, and suddenly an enemy appears around a corner. You switch to the UMP and immediately have a weapon that is designed around fast close combat. This makes it extremely useful as a secondary weapon when you know a close-range fight could happen at any moment. And when you combine fast weapon access with controllable recoil and reduced movement spread, the UMP starts making a lot more sense. It is not just one good statistic. It is the combination of several useful characteristics. That is what makes a weapon strong. And this is also why I would not call the UMP only a beginner-friendly weapon. Yes, a beginner can control it easily. But an experienced player can take advantage of that control in a completely different way. A skilled player can use the UMP while aggressively strafing, tracking enemies, changing direction, and taking tight angles. The easier recoil allows them to focus on movement and positioning. The movement accuracy helps them maintain pressure while strafing. The damage and fire rate punish enemies when the tracking is accurate. And the larger extended magazine gives them more room when multiple enemies are involved. That is the real strength of the UMP. It does not depend on one amazing statistic. It gives you a complete package for close-range combat. So when you put everything together, the UMP has around 41 base damage, roughly 670 rounds per minute, a 25-round standard magazine, and a 35-round extended magazine. It also benefits from improved movement accuracy, with PUBG Mobile documenting a 20% reduction in moving bullet spread, along with a 35% increase in weapon switch speed. And then you add its controllable recoil. That combination is what makes the gun so reliable. The UMP is not automatically going to win every close-range fight for you. Your crosshair placement still matters. Your movement still matters. Your reaction speed still matters. But when your weapon is giving you manageable recoil, useful movement accuracy, solid damage, and enough ammunition to stay in the fight, you have a much more forgiving platform to work with. So if you want to become better at close range, do not look at the UMP and think it is simply an easy gun. Understand why it is easy. Understand what the recoil is doing. Understand how bullet spread changes while moving. Understand how damage and fire rate work together. And understand why movement becomes so effective when your weapon can maintain accuracy while you are moving. Because once you understand the numbers behind the gun, you stop using the UMP simply because it feels comfortable. You start using it because you understand exactly what the weapon is giving you. And that is why, for close-range fights, the UMP deserves to be considered one of the strongest and most reliable choices in PUBG Mobile. So guys, that was all for today's video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more PUBG Mobile tips, aiming guides, movement tutorials, and practical gameplay advice that will help you improve faster. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.